environment, comprising consultancy firms, construction companies, manufacturers, and merchants, build systems that not only endure, but evolve in these turbulent times. The journey towards sustainability requires platforms like this provided by the SCCI, an advocate-driven non-profit organization dedicated to fostering an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. This, in turn, will have a ripple effect on the development of our individual entities and the broader economy. The built environment represents a broad and intricate ecosystem encompassing architecture, real estate, infrastructure, energy systems, and environmental design. It is the foundation upon which our economy rests, shaping the spaces where we live, work, and innovate. Yet, beyond physical structures, the built environment reflects the delicate balance between human creativity and natural world. It is essential that we recalibrate this balance, embrace a future where sustainability, resilience, and inclusivity are central to our approach. Today's seminar provides an opportunity to explore how our businesses can remain competitive and sustainable in the face of daunting challenges. This involves the evolutions of consultancies, construction companies, manufacturers, and merchants to meet sustainability goals while maintaining economic viability. Each of these entities must balance profitability with ecological and social responsibility. As we engage in today's discussion, I encourage us all to take a holistic view of the challenges and opportunities before us. The future of the built environment business space depends on our ability to think beyond conventional boundaries and embrace long-term sustainability of both policy and practice. Throughout today, we will delve into economic impact of the built environment, focusing on strategies to navigate the complexities of financial capacity, regulatory framework, tax considerations, legal structure, and enabling government policies that foster a conducive business climate. Equally important is our shared commitment to sustainability. How can we build responsibly, ensuring that the future generation inherit not just durable infrastructure, but also thriving businesses? Innovation and technology must take center stage as we strive to balance profitability and with economic stewardship. Sustainable building practices and the use of renewable energy will allow us reduce costs, improve project efficiencies, and position our businesses for long-term success. Moreover, the future development of our sector transcends infrastructure. It encompasses values, ethics, and principles that guide our operation. In a rapidly evolving global marketplace, adaptability, foresight, and a relentless pursuit of excellence and sustainability are not just virtues. They are necessities for survival and growth. Today's seminar brings together a distinguished keynote speaker and a panel of experts with deep insights into the future of our industry. Their experiences and perspectives will be invaluable as we navigate the future together. Our moderator, a seasoned professional with extensive industry expertise, will skillfully guide us through these discussions and ensure that we leave here better equipped for the challenges ahead. Among key areas we will explore today are competitive framework, strengthening our resilience and positioning ourselves for long-term success in the rapid changing landscape. Looking at tax and regulatory consideration, understanding strategies to navigate the financial landscape effectively, government policies, identifying key policies that, if leveraged strategically, could provide a significant boost to our industry. Access to finance, exploring ways to securing funding necessary for growth and innovation across construction, real estate, and engineering. Sustainability goals, ensuring that structures we build today leave lasting legacy for the future. Additionally, it is time we advocate for increased government support for future. It's time we advocate increased government support for medium and large enterprises in our sector, similar to intervention in SMEs. The communique which I issue today must reflect our collective voice, clearly outlining the policy support we need to thrive in this increasingly dynamic landscape. As stakeholders, we must actively engage with the government to ensure that policies not only support, but also stimulate growth of our businesses. Key areas include tax incentives for sustainable practices, infrastructure bonds, and special financing scheme for large-scale construction projects. To my esteemed colleagues and industry stakeholders and participants, I urge you to fully immerse yourself into this discussion. The strategies, knowledge, and partnership we forge here will shape not only the trajectory of our individual businesses, but also the broader economic fabric in Nigeria. In closing, I extend my deepest gratitude to the leadership of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry for their unwavering commitment to promoting policies that drive growth in the construction and engineering sector. And for those who ask what is in the chamber for us, today's seminar offers a clear answer. It is an opportunity to upscale our businesses, gain actionable insights, and connect with the key players driving the industry forward. If you are yet to join our vibrant community, I personally invite you to do so. The LCCI offers several sectorial groups dedicated to advancing businesses across all industries. There is a place for you here, and together we can build a brighter, more sustainable environment for the future. As we embark on today's journey of dialogue and learning, let us commit to building not just for today, but for the prosperity of generations to come. Let us seize this moment and move forward with confidence, equipped with the tools, strategies, and policies to thrive in these creative efforts of construction, real estate, and financial services sectors will be pivotal in unlocking the potential of our industry and create tailored solution for the built environment. Tailored solution for the built environment. I wish you all a productive and insightful seminar. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, can we please once again put hands together for QS Soji Adeniji for very detailed welcome address. I see him reading from page 1 to almost page 7. I'm like, okay, indeed, a welcome address. Once again, thank you, Mr. Soji Adeniji. Thank you. While that was going on, we had joined us Ambassador Adedoyin Roslyn Amango. She is an ambassador to the African Union and CEO Jamaican Global Real Estate Limited. Let's put hands together for her, please. Thank you so much. Thank you, madam, for showing up today. Right? With that done, we'd like to have the opening remarks from the President and Chairman of Council, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, FCA. Let's put hands together for Mr. President. Thank you, sir.
Mrs. Olajumoke Fashanu, Vice President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. QS Soji Adeniji, Chairman of the host group, the chairpersons of the other two groups, Dr. Biodun Adedipe, Chairman, Economics and Statistics Committee of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ms. Irene Oyarehwa, the head of the Dubai Chamber Lagos office, members of council who are here, leaders of the industries, the construction, real estate, and finance industries that are here, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be with you today because of the significance of the topic, the built environment, economic impacts, sustainability, and future development. We will explore how this sector influences and shapes the future of economies, especially in developing nations like ours. The sub-theme, effective industry performance, finance, and compliance requirement, will allow us to focus on critical elements that either propel or hinder the progress of this sector. The built environment encompassing everything from buildings and infrastructure to urban spaces is vital in shaping how we live, work, and interact with the environment. As Nigeria, the most populous nation in Africa, continues in its journey towards industrialization, the built environment holds the key to sustainable development, economic growth, and shared prosperity. According to recent statistics from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, the construction sector in Nigeria contributed 5.1% to the country's GDP in the first quarter of 2024. This marked improvement from previous years, shows resilience despite the economic headwinds of inflation and currency devaluation. With Nigeria's GDP in 2024 projected to be around $517 billion, the built environment accounts for approximately $27 billion of that output. This sector creates direct jobs through construction projects and supports services and industries like manufacturing, transportation, and of course, real estate development. The construction industry in Nigeria is projected to grow by 4.5% in 2024, driven by increasing infrastructure needs, urbanization, and a growing population that currently exceeds 200 million people. The built environment is a significant driver of employment, generating millions of jobs across formal and informal sectors. This sector provides a broad spectrum of employment opportunities, from skilled labor such as architects, engineers, surveyors, to unskilled workers on construction sites. As of the second quarter 2024, the construction sector employed about 9% of Nigeria's labor force, translating to over 8 million jobs. However, the sector faces challenges related to skills mismatch and underemployment. To address this, concerted efforts must be made to develop vocational training programs and improve education in technical fields. In partnership with the private sector and government agencies, the goal should be to equip our labor force with the skills needed to enhance productivity and innovation in the built environment. In the context of Nigeria, sustainability in the built environment is not just an ideal, but a necessity. With rapid urbanization, increasing population pressure, and the effects of climate change, the need for sustainable construction practices has never been greater. The construction industry is a major consumer of natural resources and a significant emitter of greenhouse gases. Globally, buildings account for 40% of energy consumption and nearly 30% of carbon emissions. In Nigeria, poor urban planning, inefficient energy use, and reliance on unsustainable materials have exacerbated the environmental impact of construction. Cities like Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt face severe environmental degradation, leading to waste management crisis. To mitigate these impacts, green build technologies and sustainable design principles must become the norm rather than the exception. Using materials that reduce carbon footprints, such as recycled materials, and adopting renewable energy sources like solar power can significantly reduce environmental degradation. Government policy should encourage the adoption of green certification programs, such as the Green Building Council Nigeria's initiatives, to drive sustainable building practice across the country. Nigeria has made significant strides in promoting sustainability in the built environment, but needs to do a lot more to enforce it. The National Building Code, revised in 2023, includes provisions for energy-efficient buildings, sustainable construction materials, and safety standards. However, compliance remains a major issue. The private sector, along with government, should embrace the principles of the Paris Agreement, which Nigeria ratified, by ensuring that the built environment contributes to achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050. A practical example of progress here in Lagos is the Aquatic project, a city built on land and designed with sustainability in mind. It highlights the potential of any urbanization with ecological balance. Nigeria is experiencing one of the fastest urbanization rates globally, with over 50% of its population now living in urban areas. By 2050, it is estimated that 70% of Nigerians will live in cities. This rapid urbanization has created a massive infrastructure deficit. The government estimates that Nigeria needs to invest $3 trillion in infrastructure over the next 30 years to close the infrastructure gap, especially in housing, transportation, water, and power. One of the major initiatives in this regard is the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, which seeks to boost infrastructure investments through public-private partnerships. This provides significant opportunities to local and foreign investors, especially in housing and smart city development. The future of the environment in Nigeria will be closely tied to digital technologies and smart city innovations. Smart cities use data and digital technologies to enhance infrastructure and services. Lagos, for example, has introduced the Lagos Smart City Project, which leverages technology for improved management, security, and energy use. As we look towards the future, integrating building information management, building information modeling, and Internet of Things technologies will be vital in creating efficient, cost-effective, sustainable cities. These tools allow for better infrastructure planning, maintenance, and management, ultimately reducing costs and improving outcomes. The performance of Nigeria's construction industry is intricately linked to finance compliance requirements. Ensuring that projects are well funded and comply with regulations is fundamental to achieving nationally determined economic and sustainability goals. In Nigeria, access to finance is one of the biggest challenges to infrastructure and real estate development. Traditional financing mechanisms such as government debts and domestic credits are often insufficient to meet the needs of large-scale infrastructure, generally large-scale transactions and projects. In 2024, it is estimated that the Nigerian government can only finance 25% of the infrastructure needs through budget allocations, leaving what is evidently a massive gap. To address this, alternate financing mechanisms should be explored, from PPPs, public-private partnerships, infrastructure bonds, and foreign direct investment are some of the tools that have gained traction. That's why I find it interesting that Dubai Lagos is here. Perhaps there are a lot of things we can learn from Dubai when it comes to financing infrastructure. In 2024, Nigeria saw a 20% increase in FDIs in real estate and construction sectors, with major projects in cities like Lagos and Abuja. A successful case study is the Dangote Refinery and Petrochemical Complex, financed through private investment and international financing facilities, showing how private sector can contribute to very large projects. Similarly, infrastructure bonds such as the Sukuk bonds have been used to finance road projects across Nigeria. While access to finance is crucial, compliance with regulatory requirements is equally vital for the success of projects. The Nigerian construction sector is heavily regulated, with oversight from various bodies, the Council of Registered Builders, Nigerian Interarchitects, and the Standard Organization of Nigeria, ensure that projects meet building codes, safety standards, and environmental regulations. It's critical to avoid delays, cost overruns, and safety issues. In 2024, the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing introduced stricter compliance measures to curb country's alarming rate of building collapses. In the first half year of this year alone, there were 28 reported cases of building collapses as reported cases. You probably have done that when below the rate of reporting. In the first half year, that happened, resulting in loss of lives and significant financial losses. Stricter enforcement of national building code and holding employers accountable, developers accountable, are vital to ensuring safety and quality in the sector. In a nutshell, the building environment represents both a challenge and opportunity for Nigeria. Its economic impact is undeniable, with the sector contributing significantly to GDP, employment, and overall development. However, we need to ensure that this growth is sustainable and aligned with global efforts to combat climate change. By addressing issues of financing and compliance and adopting intelligent technologies, we can build a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable future in the industry. All your stakeholders present, whether in the public sector, industry, or civil society, or the international investment community, to collaborate and create a built environment that meets the needs of the day without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Thank you very much.
We can do it by putting an together for Mr. President for that opening remark, which speaks right to today's event and the sessions of the panel sessions we get into various. Once again, President, thank you so much for that speech. Just before we go into the meat of today's event, and I know my brother and father, Actor Shegun Ladiga, is getting ready to moderate the panel session. Is getting ready so fast. One of the things I will take from him today is his bow tie. Time is at the end of today. All right, thank you so much, sir. We'd like to have a keynote speaker address us and make his presentation, which I believe the discussion part will be centered on later in the day. Let's make welcome Mr. Joseph Olusegun Ajanlepo as he makes his presentation. People will clap for him when he comes to the podium. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So I'll give myself a task for you. I will keep your phone for you. I will hold it. I will be sure that he's safe. Oh, he's safe. Yeah, very well, very well.
Oh, charging fees for that. Good morning, all. Yes, still morning. I think my paper has been really answered by the president and the chairman of the construction and Nigeria group. You've spelled so much, including statistics, about the state of the built environment. Thank you very much. Let me first of all recognize protocols. The president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, vice presidents of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, council members here present, the chairman of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry Construction and Engineering Group, chairman of the Lagos State LCCI Real Estate Group, the chairman of the Financial Services Group, the chairman of the Economic Services Group, fellow speakers, moderator and panelists, distinguished guests, construction practitioners and stakeholders, fellow professional colleagues, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is with deep sense of humility and joy that I accepted to be the keynote speaker for today's event that is being organized by the Construction and Engineering Group in collaboration with the Real Estate Group and Financial Services Group. Yes, with deep sense of humility, I'm aware that there are many professional colleagues in the different built environment disciplines who are much better qualified than myself to deliver the keynote address. And joy, because this has afforded me a very rare opportunity to rub minds with my colleagues in the different disciplines of the affairs of the state of the construction industry in Nigeria. I'm therefore grateful to the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry for this rare privilege to be among highly accomplished and distinguished professionals and colleagues to discuss Nigeria's state. At independence, all of us who were born then, and quite a few were born before independence here, maybe the majority of those here were post-independence, I'm sure. But before, at independence, each had wonderful expectations for our country and our individual and collective strivings. Extremely high hopes. Nigeria, after 60 years of independence, we are unfortunately still a toddler nation groping to find light. Today, there is no facet of our life that has not experienced decay. Is it our school system that we want to talk about, or the hospitals? Is it our work ethics or our value system? Is it the indiscipline, corruption, and deep lack of patriotism as witnessed by the politicians, government officials, professionals, elites, must dig the masses? Everyone is culpable. The rot is deep and unimaginable. And so, thousands and millions have resorted to prayers and praying for divine intervention. A lot of us have forgotten the age-old adamantine law of nature that says you can only reap what you sow. As you lay your beds, so shall you lie. Were to be discussed. Governing system, law and order, good corporate governance, and stable government were to be discussed. And global competitiveness, under global competitiveness, sustainable economic growth, external environment, science, engineering, and technology, competitive edge were to be discussed. Nigeria, evaluated under each head, scored extremely low marks. It was obvious that the nation was in trouble. The Vision 2010 statement was, Nigeria must build a new nation that is united, industrious, caring, and God-fearing, democratic society, committed to making the basic needs of life affordable for everyone and creating Africa's leading economy. None of the lofty goals were achieved. Now, fast track forward to Vision 2020. This was a conscious economic strategy that was planned to improve the sustainability of the developmental goals in order to build a robust economy and become one of the top 20 countries in the world. What a bold ambition. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us now, based on the UN Human 2020, by the end of the tall targets on January 1st, 2020, Nigeria was not among the world's top 20 economies in terms of gross domestic product, GDP. It was the 28th according to IMF. The long-term development plan did not make a dent on the Nigerian developmental challenges, as many Nigerians were in worse socio-economic conditions than ever before. Nigeria now has the highest number of people living in extreme poverty across the world, with an estimated over 86 people said to be having less than 381 naira per day. 381 naira. I don't think it will buy water itself now. That's several economic malaces, including insecurities, epileptic power supply, weak infrastructure and institutions that still plague the country, shows that the magic wand is yet to be found. The summation, therefore, is possessing unprecedented wealth, knowledge and digital connectivity at global, regional, and national levels. Nigeria is still stuck in achieving equitable human progress and sustainable development. The harrowing revelation about Nigeria are as follows after Vision 2020. Over 40% of Nigerians live below poverty line. It has gone up to over 60 now. the percentage of poor Nigerians is well over 70% of the population. Over 64% of Nigerians lack health care. Over 50% are illiterate, more than that now. At least over 70% do not have safe drinking water and sanitation. At least over 30 primary school pupils cannot afford to eat well enough to enhance proper maintenance, proper attendance, attention, and good performance at schools. One simple litmus test is the state of our petroleum industry today, where we earn the foreign exchange that is currently sustaining us. The 4 refineries are constantly shut down since almost 30 years ago. Now, thanks to Dangote. The latest of that saga is the huge joke that I read on one of the platforms I belong to, and it goes thus. NNPC has 4 refineries, 21 petrol depots, 5,120 kilometer network of petroleum pipelines. But ironically, NNPC is now celebrating the loading of petrol trucks at the private refinery set up by Dangote. What an irony. Then I'll talk about debt traps. Nigeria recently borrowed $2.58 billion from IMF. Debt to date to be 110 billion. The 2.5 billion that will be paid back in 2064 will be 30 billion due to currency depreciation. So by the time we are paying the 2.58 billion back, we will be paying 30 billion. That's over 15 times what we borrowed. Foreign exchange naira, foreign exchange Nigeria naira 23, just down the corner there, it was 460 naira to a dollar. Now in 2024, or it seems 2023, the dollar rose to be 1,648. You can see the big jump. How do we expect to pass? The table below of Human Development Index speaks to our current state. Among Nigeria's population of over 200 million, like I said, more than 4 do not have access to safe water. This is over 57 million. And 10 million children are out of school, maybe more. 112 million live in extreme abject poverty with less than $1 a day. Now let's come to built environment, which is why we are here. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me now shift my paper to the built environment and construction, where I ply my trade and which is the central focus of our gathering here today. The construction industry does not exist in silos. The economic situation of a nation has a significant impact on the construction and infrastructure of the country. This is the reason that I first dealt with the economy generally and spoke about the Vision 2010 and Vision 2020. Now, infrastructure as a starter within our environment. Let's first take stock of infrastructure. Nigeria needs at least 35 billion yearly up till 2040 to cover the infrastructure costs and needs. Nigeria's infrastructure deficit amounts to 30% of its gross domestic product, which falls short of the international benchmark of 70% set by the World Bank, with a score of, say, 48.33% out of a total of 100. So we are below. The country still has over 50% infrastructure deficit. Nigeria is ranked 24th out of 54 African countries in the African Infrastructure Development Index, AIDI, in 2020. 24 out of 54. And yet, we have a large reserve of petroleum and large reserve of minerals. Yet, this has not affected our performance. For example, a cursory look at our roads will give us a picture of our development. Nigeria has about 195,000 kilometers of road network, of which about 6,000 kilometers are paved. Most of these major paved roads networks were constructed in the 80s and 90s. A kilometer of asphalt road in Nigeria is currently estimated to cost 1 billion naira, which is about 4 times the average cost of a kilometer asphalt road on the African continent. The state of our roads leaves much to be desired. Today, hard gravel road predominates. And I did a table there that shows what roads, bituminous road, the asphalt road that we have covered, and the ones that we have not covered. The table is there in my paper, but it is a sad reflection that today, of about 1,115 kilometer roads existing, only about, like I said, 30% were bituminous. Our roads are characterized by large potholes, lack of drains, and sometimes the potholes turn into refuse heaps. Annual loss due to poor maintenance, poor road maintenance, is 80 billion naira. Very few bridges have been built, and the old ones are fastly collapsing. Only recently, the government completed the second Niger bridge at an astronomical cost. The cost of that bridge is still, we are still counting it, because it's shifting every day. Also in Lagos, so far only 3 bridges have been built. Lagos is the most vibrant state in the country. If you go to London or America, along the River Thames, for example, in London, they have almost 16 bridges or 18 bridges. It shows the extent of the vitality and the economic viability of the nation. Today, that's why we are stuck together. The bridges are not enough to drive the economy of the state. The fourth one is still at the drawing stage. Lagos still needs at least 4 more bridges if greater economic activity is to be achieved. As over road construction has been a classic challenge in Nigeria over the past 2 decades, as poor roads infrastructure continues to plague domestic supply chains and limit manufacturing competitiveness. Nigeria's notoriously bad roads have led to the considerations of appropriate road materials and the best models for road financing. I'll talk about that. The big economic question and consideration is whether to asphalt or not to asphalt, in view of the ever-recurring failures of asphalt roads. The choice is between cheaper but less durable roads and costlier but longer-lasting highways. There's an argument for concrete roads, as is done in so many Western world and in South Africa. In view of paucity of funds, the idea seems not to have found roots. There is therefore a drive towards PPP arrangement for funding roads with the private sector. But here again, cost of funding finance is the main bottleneck. The question is, at what cost? Is it affordable? Then let me move to housing. So much about infrastructure and roads. And you can imagine, if we don't have good roads, if we don't have long-lasting roads, economic activity will stagnate, will slow down. And that's why we are where we are today. Then let me talk about housing sector, and that will shock us more. Housing sector plays a recruitment of an economy and is one of the most important basic needs of man. It becomes an obligation for any good government to provide affordable accommodation to its citizens. As a nation, our path to development cannot be completed without providing housing to our teeming population. The statistics of homelessness stare us all in the face. Currently, many cannot afford a decent home. Nearly half of Nigeria's population lives in urban and semi-urban areas, with majority living in slums and substandard accommodation. Mabugunje asserted that government white paper on housing and urban development acknowledged that government had undertaken some significant steps in meeting the demand for housing. Those efforts from then till now have yet to see the light of day. As a matter of fact, federal government have been paying lip service to the provision of housing. Sometimes ago, federal government allocated the sum of 36.7 billion to the Federal Ministry of Land and Housing, but it's not to build any house, rather for capital projects like borehole, town halls, street lights, and market stall. Towards this, and it is clear that Nigerian government and other players in the housing delivery are not treading the same path as other countries tread in meeting up the housing needs of their citizenry. In overview of housing in Nigeria, I did a graph which is not shown here to give us a bird's eye view of the problems and challenge of housing in Nigeria. A report from the Center for Affordable Housing Finance in Africa, CAHF, it states as follows: notwithstanding the challenges facing Nigeria, there must be a concerted effort to grow that industry. Economic recovery and increasing household incomes will continue to fuel demand for new housing for purchase and rental. However, this growth potential will only be fully realized concerted and efforts and changes are made to Nigeria's housing strategy. Effective summary of the that was released recently by the Statistical Department of Central Bank. Keynote summary of our state of industry. Projected real estate market size in 2024 is built to be $2.26 trillion. Projected. Projected market size up to 2028 is said to be $3.02 trillion. Compound annual growth rate, CAGR, between 2024 and 2028 is said to be 7.52%. Housing deficits has shifted way back in 10 years ago. It was about 20 million we were projecting. But now, the statistics says the housing deficit is 28 million units. Real estate contribution to GDP 2022 is 5.14%. Real estate contribution to GDP by 2023 was 3.08%. It was going down. Nigeria's current population is well over 20 million. Projected population by 2050, 400 million. Key urban areas of growth that has been identified is Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. Mr. Chairman, the existing scenario is a huge paradox. A paradox of achieving so little with so much endowment in the land. As of today, the housing and infrastructure development in our country have been But before espousing this, it is pertinent to remind ourselves in terms of affordable housing and infrastructure development to the overall national economy and well-being. Its contribution in terms of the massive construction industry has a potential to employ a lot of human resources, and that's why we can't toy with it. The construction industry is of strategic importance to the national economy because just as the infrastructure industry is dependent on the national economy, so also is the national economy dependent on the infrastructure industry. It's vice versa. A growth strategy for the national economy will automatically translate to a growth in the demand for construction outputs and vice versa. Because of these interlinkages and the fact that the products of the construction industry are large and expensive, most governments use the construction industry as a tool for regulating expenditure within the economy by suspending or postponing planned infrastructure projects and housing. It follows, therefore, that in order to stabilize the fluctuation in the production of housing outputs and roads, there must exist a viable private source for funding construction activities and outputs, structured to eliminate the constraints that presently exist. Another prompting for the involvement of a new financial institution is the acute and severe shortage of affordable housing by the generality of Nigerians. According to statistics, it is estimated by the end of the year 2001, Nigeria will have required 20 million dwelling houses. If we assume that these houses, each one is being produced for 1 million, which is not possible, for 10 million, which is not possible, then we will need 300 trillion annually to build housing to meet our needs. And this is not possible. From what I have here of housing, to date, every year, maybe both government and state build 40,000 housing units annually. And we need 2 million to 10 million housing every year to meet our homelessness. Constraint to construction output. Considering the nature of infrastructure output, which are large, expensive, and generally takes a long time to produce, and the structure of accessing available funds within the Nigerian banking sector, which is largely short-term and expensive, there's no doubt that a separate funding arrangement needs to be put in place to finance housing activities and infrastructure. Just as there is a specialized bank for industry, a specialized bank for agriculture to promote industrial and agricultural development because of their peculiarities. So it is imperative that the construction industry has its own specialized bank. Another major constraint, the cost of such funds, is the high interest rates prevalent in the current financial dispensation. You can't build with the kind of interest rates that we have in the commercial bank. First, the commercial banks are not set up for long-term projects. They are not set up for construction. They are traders bank. But what time we found out that this is the only avenue that is available to the industry to source for funds to do capital projects. We can never move with that. And I did mention this. I was going to narrate the story later, but I might as well do that now. When Obasanjo was president, we moved the idea of a specialized bank. And he was enamored, he was excited. He said, let's get it rolling. I told him that what we're doing, the 7 Built Environment Professional, have a cooperative where we can aggregate funds, which will feed into the CBN in order to have a license. And he agreed. I said, we have a light bank. Then it's easy for most of our activity in the industry to be more vibrant. I told you of the shortage of housing. I told you of the shortage of infrastructure. And he said, yes, that's good. We must be able to do that. So we constantly were meeting with him a year or two. Then by the time we wanted to roll out the bank, he said, I've been advised not to register this bank. We said, why? He said the commercial banks said if they are recapitalized to 25 billion, they'll be able to do all construction-related activities. And I was flabbergasted. I said, how? First, these commercial banks are not set up for infrastructure, for construction business. They are short-term banks, and they are double-digit. And you too, you have agreed that with our specialized bank, we'll be doing single digits. We've done our availability appraisal 6%. On top of that, because it was going to be private sector run, we had the opportunity of having an inflow of $1 billion from China Construction Bank and a bank, a Guggenheim Bank in America. But when he said this, we don't need it, he said I should go and meet Soludo and Tunde Lemo, who was the governor of Central Bank, and then that killed that initiative. But today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we need to go back to it. And I think the current government had an inkling that such a bank could help to solve our infrastructural deficits. And since we have low capital base and the mortgage institutions are not helping anyway, we need to now reactivate the need for construction bank. The nature of most construction outputs, which are largely expensive and generally take a long time to produce, does not make them easily attractive for funding by commercial banks. I'm sure the contractors here know how much they go through. I've experienced it on one of our estates, Goshen Beach. KZS, yeah, construction KZS. We were to do 500 housing units at Goshen Beach. By the time we started, we were taking money from Diamond Bank. Within a week, or within 6 months, we were told that we cannot go on again, that the interest rate is moving at large space. So we needed to cut down on the output. From 500, we did 100. And at what cost? Our projection was to sell those houses at 50 million. We ended up selling each one at 50 million naira because of the cost of interest. So we need to move to our own specialized. Therefore, there is doubt now that for a specialized bank, it must be set up to mobilize funds and other resources required to finance long-term production of housing and infrastructure. Such a bank will augment, which can be used to finance the construction through development of large projects, especially under the private sector arrangements, such as refineries, water supply schemes, power projects, and new town developments, gas supply schemes, office towers, etc., and etc. The existing banks do not have appropriate credit creation structure to suit the construction industry. This specialized bank will be a catalyst for industrial growth and development, as the increase in output will lead to increase in the production of inputs for the production, leading to increase in industrial capacity, utilization, as well as increase in employment and growth in the national economy. The bank will mobilize many long-term funds which it can lend for construction output at lower rates of interest and longer tenures, thereby providing
like the slogan for one of the football teams in England, we don't walk alone. From the conception stage, through the infrastructural development, housing estates, ports, and every physical development of woman and development of man, each year and every one of us are partners in progress. I want to use this opportunity to please ask our panelists to please, yes, the construction and engineering group are, as been said, the leading group here, yes. But our financiers, as alluded by the keynote speaker, they play a great role in ensuring that our economy is good, in ensuring that we have a sustainable practice, in ensuring that we all succeed in our professional business. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim, for that very special remarks, I must comment. Right, we will move to what is next. We are not doing too bad with our time. We are just like few minutes behind schedule. I will try and cover the minute, but much of it will be achieved by my brother, Architect Olusegun Ladega, who will be moderating this event. But just before I hand over the microphone to him, I'd like to recognize the presence of one of our leaders and president, chairman of council, Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyor and Valuer, ESV Victor Alonge. Let's put hands together for him, please. Thank you, sir. I saw him join us while Mr. Ibrahim was making his remarks. You're welcome so much. You're welcome to this event, sir. Thank you. All right. So to moderate this next session is our brother Architect Olusegun Ladega, Managing Director, Interstate Architect Limited. Let's put hands together for him as he comes to take his seat. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Let's keep clapping for him, please. You know, when two big men see themselves, Yoruba people call it aworawo. So we understand that when Ladega meets Alonge, I mean, you can connect, you can guess what happened. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I'll bring the discussant up and I'll hand over the microphone to Mr. Architect Ladega. First is Dr. Adekunle Olayinka, Special Advisor to the Governor for Works and Infrastructure, Lagos State. Is he in now? Okay, all right. I was told he was in at a point. Next is our brother and friend, very eloquent and competent, capable, always delivering. I mean, if you have attended our event here and been a member of SCCI also, you can guess that he's loaded. Let's put hands together for Dr. Biodun Adedipe. Let's put hands together for him, founder and chief executive consultant of B. Adedipe Associate Limited. Let's put hands together for him once again. I don't know why my people make this seat too long like this. So, Ayo Akomu, please. We need to reduce the seat on the front row for camera purposes and aesthetics. So next, we have, I love when I see women, you know, tread where men fear, or, you know, do exploit where some men cave in. Put your hands together for Mrs. Olajumoke Fashanu, CEO, Fosto Mortgage Brokers Limited, and a vice president here at SCCI. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Next is our brother engineer Ibuan Okasabo, CEO Construction KCR Limited. Let's put hands together for our brother. Thank you, sir. I know you will have many construction works now in Edo State going forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Last but not the least, on this panel discussion, we have Dr. Oshinowo Ibrahim, Executive Chair, Tesla Holdings Limited. Let's put hands together for Dr. Oshinowo. Thank you, sir. I'm tempted to say the Emilokon regime is so good for in your body. I will see when before you leave. Thank you, sir. And at this point, I give the microphone to our brother, Architect Ladega, to have this moderate this session. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you very much, the compare. And I believe the protocols have been well established. I wouldn't want, I'm always very careful at events that I don't go or okay. All right, some housekeeping needs to be done before we continue. Well, that's a major restructure, which is actually a topical topic, quite topical these days in Nigeria, where we keep talking about restructuring. Perhaps we just saw how a bit of restructure could give you a better view of us. And perhaps by the time we are leaving here, we will have ended up with some more restructuring strategies that will make our industry more viable and more sustainable. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to have been honored to sit with all of you here to chit-chat on the built environment, economic impact, sustainability, and future developments. First, I thank the chairman of the subsector. But I'm supposed to start with the president. You see, I'm very poor with protocol, and it's the reason why I try to avoid it. I just say I stand on the existing protocols. Hopefully, it's well laid. It wouldn't collapse under my weight. I weigh just a little less than 120 kg. And I'm working very hard on reducing it so I won't crush any existing protocols. Now that we're all feeling a bit relaxed, after, we've had to digest 3 seminar presentations already today. And there was actually a 4th one that was very carefully crafted and delivered by Mr. Ibrahim. Am I right? Yes, he gave the last one, but first we had to digest some 3 very heavy meals. After all, we are supposed to take 3 square meals in a day. So we've actually had our dose for the day, and now let's hope that the digestive system here will do a good job of it. The construction industry as a whole is at a pivotal point. And right now, it's the economy and global demands, expectations, and challenges bring together a collection of forces that impact the industry. We look at the economic situation impacts. The 3 papers had very carefully analyzed how the state of the economy impacts the industry. Issues of sustainability, which is desirable for mankind, for the continuity of mankind on the surface of the earth, and the continued thriving of humanity, is a major challenge. But we will recall a little over a year ago, a Nigerian leader, our president, in fact, did challenge the commitment to, or the pressure to commit to certain sustainability goals on the basis of the fact that survival First, sustainability thereafter, where he made reference to poisoned communion, and some people took offense. But the fact is that survival is an issue, and sustainability may sound like a luxury when we're talking of survival. But I want to start, and I think I may start strategically. I think Kaiserbo is holding the mic, so I might as well just start with you. And again, as a practitioner in the construction side of the business, what sort of challenges does the construction industry face based on prevailing economic, social, and political atmosphere?
Thank you very much, sir. My big brother and very, very senior man in the industry. We learn a lot from you every day. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you to the LCCI for inviting us here to come and talk about what we know already. So here we were coming out of the COVID in 2021. And in 2022, the war in Ukraine started. I mean, you all know that you cannot work, you can't build from home. We're under lockdown. We couldn't work for months. And when a company cannot make money, they run into trouble. That's correct, because we had to pay salaries, we had to run the office, even though we were not creating value. Next year, war in Ukraine started, and if you recall, in March, when that war started, diesel moved up from 280 to 800 immediately. Caused an energy crisis, caused a logistics crisis. Containers used to ship from China for $3,000. It now became $10,000 overnight. And we know that most of our construction materials are imported. So that's where the crisis in the industry started. We're talking about sustainability of the industry. If there are no companies there to build critical infrastructure and buildings, then what happens? I've not finished my story of woe. After the war, we had subsidies removed. Fuel price went up further. We hadn't finished digesting that. They said they want to deregulate the FX industry. We are seeing problem upon problem. I can tell you that construction costs have gone up maybe 150% in the last 12 months. Maybe 150%. So how does an industry survive that? How? We have existing contracts, some of them fixed, and you go to your client and tell them, sorry, price has gone up. He says, I'm not aware. Even bankers, they tell you they're not aware. They pretend not to know. So I asked the client, have you got to borrow money to finish your job? Then when you come back next year, they call you the company has gone under. Those are the kind of challenges we face. Now, the economic situation in the country has also brought about a problem in talent migration. All our people in middle management, everybody wants to jackpot. They want to go to Canada, they want to go to the UK, they want to go to Dubai, they want to go to Australia. In fact, they want to even go to Russia. And I asked, what are you going to do in Russia? You can't even speak the language. They just want to do what? Escape. So who are the people that are going to build the critical infrastructure, the homes, the hospitals, the bridges that Nigeria needs with a growing population, 200 million and rising? Now, talking about that, with those escalating costs, we've tried to do a lot of value engineering while trying to make buildings more functional without compromising the structure. So we've heard of collapsed buildings all over the place. How can we make sure that buildings stop collapsing, cutting costs without compromising that? So as a business, we started doing value engineering. So even when we're invited for a tender, we pick up the drawings, with due respect to our consultants, and we say, look, from my experience, you see, to do value engineering, you must have a 360 view.
because people will begin to take us seriously when the name of the company is not Olajumoke Fashanu and Daughters and Sons. A lot of people find it strange. There's no company that I have that I own 100% of it. Not in my life. Because I believe in collaboration. And since I don't have intentions of defrauding you, so I think the collaborative work, the economies of scale, will put about the kind of structures and accountability that will enable. So even before talking about the specialized banks, let's begin to see construction companies coming together. Let's begin to see the kind of mergers that bring about a lot of these developments. I've had situations whereby we want to put up a huge structure and we got some foreign partners that were willing to put the funding down. So they were willing to put the funding down to infinity because it was very attractive for them. And this was about 10 years ago. But what these foreign partners could not understand is why the cost of land will be about 60% of a project. Now, the equity we were bringing in was the land. So for construction to begin to even make economic sense on a global level, we have, as stakeholders, have to look at what's the rationale about this pricing of our land. Yes, for me as a person, when I'm selling my land and I bought for 10 naira and I'm selling for 10 million, it makes sense and I'm dancing. But as a country, it begins to create they couldn't, and that was why we couldn't do the project. And the landowners refused to review the land. So it's another challenge that we have to take a look at. We need to see that another time. Honestly, what is the rationale by which we value this land? And I'm sure that my colleague here, that those that are real structural engineers and everything, it is a challenge. I mean, you want to do a joint venture, a family already owns the land, and they're telling you the cost of the land is 1 billion, and you're bringing in 300 million. So they're going to take, so those are the kind of issues and challenges, not to even, before you even talk about the rate of the naira to everything. As for the rate of exchange, I saw a write-up, a documentary about what Ghana did. Yorubas will say, "Oyinbo to she pencil, lo she razor." That's the truth. There is no hard and fact rule about this rate of exchange. There is nothing. 1 dozen is 12, right? So instead of writing it as 1 dozen, you write 12. 6 is half a dozen. So it's just, as far as I'm concerned, it is all politics. That's the truth. Now, so what do I now suggest is a solution and the way forward? Here's what I think. The people in the arts, the music stars, the Nollywood, did they really wait for government? I'm sure they did not. So to a large extent, yes, we have the constraint that we work in a situation that ought to be highly regulated. So I think even places where there are no regulations, let us begin to self-regulate ourselves. And let us do a lot more collaboration on smaller scales and begin to do it on bigger scales. And I have this to say. There is, well, I'm a chartered accountant. I got to, and I know an accounting firm that when I knew them, they were one of the very small that people didn't know about. Do you know that I went to Canada and I found that they have a branch in Canada, which means that some world firm of accountants saw the small company here in Nigeria. So part of the good news I say is when we as stakeholders, when we put our acts together and we come together and we self-regulate ourselves, we'll become very attractive and we'll be able to bring in money. As individuals, here is what I encourage us to do. Home ownership begin to look more like a mirage, but I want to say that you have to be willing to unlearn what you thought you knew and open your mind to new things. at whatever level you are, home ownership is still very possible, and it is still very doable, but you have to be willing to learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, madam. I'm sure that the round of applause is an acknowledgement of the quality of your contribution. I just realized that we can now add a number 4 dissertation to the 3 others we've had earlier today. Dr. Adedipe, it's good it's going down that way so that I will end up here with my countryman here. After Dr. Adedipe. The first 2 speakers have analyzed how the economy impacts the industry. They've also made reference to certain figures, but I know you are more of an expert in that field. The economic indices and how they impact the industry, the purchasing power, because affordability that Madam mentioned is all about purchasing power. It's all about pricing in the market vis-a-vis money in the pocket. Can you help us give a clearer picture as to this fact that affordability tends to be like a moving target that we're permanently chasing because the pocket does not seem to grow as fast as all the other markers in the market? Can you help us put this in perspective and perhaps also some suggestions or recommendations of what can happen? Especially that there was also a reference to possibility of a specialized bank. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, the moderator. Now, I will start from this perspective of how significant these 2 sectors we are discussing here today are, and that is real estate and construction. The combination of those 2 sectors in our economy steadily account for between 8 and 9.2% of our GDP, and that's quite significant. And also, from research done thus far, and I will refer to research dating back to the last 100 years, thereabout, from the early 1920s up until date, the importance of real estate vis-a-vis banking and finance. Now, the influence of real estate on the economy, that's talking about the impact now, is twice the influence of a vibrant banking and finance sector. Because data has proven that if there's trouble in real estate, it causes a dampening of GDP by twice a troubled banking and finance sector will cause for the economy. So that underscores how important the sector is to start with. Also, if you look at the data on the Nigerian economy, in the last 20 years thereabout, real estate is among the top 6 contributors to our GDP. So quick means it's an area of fundamental importance. Now, I was privileged to be a part of what became our Vision 2020. Having interrogated Vision 2010, and then we came together in 2007 to generate what we call then the financial sector strategy for year 2020. And it became very clear that if our economy is going to grow, then we needed to do something about the credit market, that's the financing side. And incidentally, I was the leader of the credit market team at the time. And so what we said was that we needed to democratize credit. Democratizing credit means, number 1, it is available. Number 2, it is accessible. And number 3, it is affordable. Now, having also been privileged to speak at many fora on real estate within Nigeria, in Africa, and globally, one of the things I also promote is how to democratize real estate. And that is focusing on affordability. So what now are the issues there? a projected global population of 9.7 billion people by year 2030, 62.8% of them needing housing. And then you come back to Nigeria, and we now say, okay, let's even assume a certain value for an affordable housing unit. And as was remarked earlier on, the number of housing deficit has been increasing from our estimate. And it's not difficult to do. Nigeria's population policy, a man, his wife, 4 children. That means a housing unit will take 6. Take our population, estimated at 229 million people as of June this year. Okay? So simply divide that by 6. That gives you an idea of how many housing units we need. If we also have an estimate of existing housing units, that gives you a pointer to the deficit. So it then means housing delivery expected to bridge that gap. We can put our finger on the estimate. Then we now assume what value do we need for an affordable house. Then we multiply that, and that gives us the funding deficit. So that makes us now to say, where will the money come from?
That's the question I want you to answer.
Exactly. So that's the next thing I want to pick on. Where will the money come from? Now, the first thing we tell ourselves is that when it comes to funding, and I'll give an illustration that connects to what Mrs. Fashanu said earlier on. Now, there's a project that I'm involved with, about $110 million. Okay? That project is situated in Abia State. So it's also a public-private partnership with the federal government by our client. Now, for that project, federal government is a partner with this private sector entity. The land is in Abia State. So Abia State government issued the CFO. But to get the CFO out, it will require federal government to pay compensation to the landowners. And federal government balked. Then we stepped forward. Can we pay compensation to the landowners? They said, oh, well and good. But we said, no, wait a minute. That means the concession you will grant us will be for a longer period. So for stepping in to play the role of federal government of Nigeria, the concession was extended for 25 to 30 years. Now came to funding, the heart of the matter. How do you fund this project? Okay? And that is where the 3 groups that came together becomes important for this particular seminar. And we said, okay, now construction is one side to it. It's a massive project, a dry port actually, to be specific. Now we said there is always construction risk. So how do we de-risk it from that perspective? That's where it starts from. So the construction risk, which means whoever will be the contractor or the consortium of contractors, there must be people with track record that the financiers will be willing to bet on. So that was the first thing we had to sort out. Sorting out the construction companies. Now, having sorted that out, we now went to the issue of off-takers. And we said, who are the off-takers? So for a dry port, I'll bring it up to real estate now. For a dry port, it will be the importers that need the services. So within that space in the southeast, what is the volume of containers that end up in the southeast? No matter where they come into Lagos through. We found about 60%. So we then said, okay, let's interact with those importers, the shippers and all of them. They signed on. That took care of off-takers. And we now say, okay, financing. In the agreement, the federal government said, if you guys are unable to pay the financiers of the project 3 months consecutively, we revoke the agreement we have with you, we step in and make good what you owe the financiers. That gave comfort to those that we fund it. So, but we now say, because this funding also has an FS component. You remember, our keynote speaker mentioned that earlier. how do we now protect the stakeholders against the FX risk? So we tried different options: Hong Kong, Singapore, South Africa. We settled for an insurance company in South Africa that offered insurance of that risk. So when we now come into affordable housing, and I'm happy that Mrs. Fashanu mentioned that it is different from social housing. All right? So to make it affordable, it means you must look for fund that is either single digit or at the very worst, the early double digit. That means less than 20%. Now, what this will require then is you look at the projects that is to be done, number one, and identify all the risks involved. So how do we now de-risk it in such a way that the financiers will be ready to put their money on the table? Now you look at the off-takers, which of course was what, I think I keep also missing the pronunciation of the name, just like the MC. Okay. I'm sorry about that. Okay, Zebo, thank you, sir. Now, he also made reference to an important factor there. You know, when you talk, you made reference to the Japa syndrome. All right? So who are those that will live in those affordable houses? So that means the financing structure, we consider one, the equity required from them. The equity must not go beyond 10%, as we generally recommend. And then we need long-term funding, which of course we heard from our keynote speaker, is generally not available. But there is also green funding. And that is where innovation comes into it. So two critical elements that can lead us to affordable housing. Number one, the inputs, that's the materials. The more of domestic materials we use, the easier opportunity for us to reduce the cost of delivery. Then secondly, there are funds we can access, what we call green funds, that we also consider what you mentioned, sustainability. Because those ones consider ESG. So if there is ESG considerations in the design, that gives a credential for accessing those green funds. And they are quite significant around the world. So unless we're able to access such funds, we will not be able to reduce significantly the cost of financing. So I will now wrap it up together this way. The model for financing affordable housing is simply this. You must deal with the financing of construction. Then you deal also with mortgage financing. And then you deal with financing on the side of the off-takers. So your financing, therefore, will take care of those three segments to the market. And then we now talk about the enablers. And that is where the insurance companies and the rest of them will come from. Mortgage financing companies and all. But to summarize it all, we cannot deliver affordable housing effectively if there is no clear collaboration. In my own view, the reference to a construction bank, I don't think government should initiate it or promote it. It can be promoted strictly by the private sector. And I want us to look in that direction rather than look at government. I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now to Dr. Oshinowo. You know, I'm sure you've had an opportunity of listening to the three of them. In fact, I could just foremost have said, just do a critique of everything that they have said. Because listening to them, they seem maybe not to have factored in some of the various risks that are associated with what they've advocated. And the fact is that we are here today is an indication that there's still a number of inhibitors and hindrances that have prevented these beautiful ideas from coming to fruition. What is your take on the various structural and even non-structural difficulties, issues, risks, etc., that stand in the way, and how can they be overcome, that the dreams of the three other panelists here can come to fruition for the benefit of both the industry and the citizens at large.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman of the Chambers and the distinguished colleague here. Thank you so much, sir. I would like to start with a very short story. I was opportune to be in a state cabinet of a state government in 2007 to 2011. And during the transition of the government, we found out that we need to create a lot of investment in housing. And how do we do it? Affordable, mutually. How do we do it? We advised the governor then, that what we will do is to set up a fund. One, we're going to work with African Development Bank, we're going to work with Federal Mortgage Bank, and we're going to work with Bank of Industry. The major issue as at then was for how do we tackle the funding to provide excessive and massive housing for our people. To get to a basic point, our off-taker are the civil servant first. We're going to reduce it so that off-taking or after construction will not be an issue. So we'll just have our civil servant at a very low interest rate, they will pick it up. After thorough discussions with those multilateral agencies, government agencies, we found out that most of the people that we are going to engage in private sector who are into real estate are not credible. I measured the risk involved investment, housing investment as at that time. We found out that most of the private sector who are playing MDC of all these real estate companies gets these funds, and some of them started marrying 2-3 wives, changing their cars and the rest of them. We proceed, okay, what do we do? This is a major core campaign strategy for us. We need to deliver. How do we do it? Thorough models of indices to measure the credibility of all these indices, because the government cannot be, we targeted of building about 2,000 houses per annum, and we can't do it alone. What we need to do is to bring private construction companies to come on board. Why we get the fund and give them at a very single-digit rate. I can tell you for free that we shortlisted about 60, 46 defaulted in paying back loans. Some of them, till date, we could not find them. Second phase to President Jonathan, when His Majesty, Governor, the former governor of CBN, Lamido Sanusi, was right there. I was also part of the National Housing Campaign. The issue we are always hearing from this, lofty section is that funding. Have we done in-house auditing of these companies who come at the age of we don't have funds to build? After getting the funds, some of them started, changing their lifestyle, building, luxurious cars and the rest of it, neglecting even the competence and, the details of the construction. Some of the buildings that you see them constructing are defaults. Most of the parameters to use to build are more of a low standard. So I'm laying the foundation for us to go to the next phase. Now, what is the risk in investment? Like what Doctor said, yes, it's good. We strategize on how to fund projects. Madam said we have to look inward. Why do we need governments to develop real estate strategy? The people in the entertainment industry are not doing that. You can't compare an apple with a banana. Everywhere in the world, in Australia, in Britain, in America, in Germany, government intervention in portfolio, especially housing portfolio investment, require government support and subsidy. But who is government going to give these funds to? And I can say that Nigerian government is facing a very tall order. For instance, there's a fund to address this issue at the Federal Ministry of Finance, Federal Ministry of Housing, under Minister Ahmed Musa right now. The same fund was created under Lamido Sanusi. And the CBN, as at that time, despite the fact that we initiated a thorough due diligence to give these funds out, most of the real estate owners, most of them are not in the country today. They got those funds, build 1 or 2 houses, and abscond. Till date. So we need to do a thorough audit of what we're doing. It's not about the government. We need government presence, we need government collaborations, but what are we doing in-house? As a practitioners, what are we doing to address our integrity level of assessing this fund? The same fund you are talking about, Doctor, is presently on African Housing Initiative by Dr. Akinwumi. The fund is almost about $2 billion. It's with African Development Bank right now. But who are we going to give this to? They rated Ghana as more credible than us, we Nigeria. That's why you could see those hike in investment in housing, both social and general housing in Ghana. What we need to do is the practitioner should look inward and develop a strategic model of being, assessing this fund credibly and utilizing same in our country. And everything boils down on patriotism. Madam discussed issue about getting landed titles and the rest of it. I can tell you that to get that should be the easiest model. Once the state government is attracted to your record, what have you done? If you have assessed 1 or 2 funds, how useful have you utilized such funds? Were you given 2 billion naira to develop a social housing scheme? You build 1,000, you build 200, you are nowhere to be found. Those are the hindrances that affect government confidence in issuing title. Am I going to give you title, and at the end of the day, you are telling me that you want to build a social housing or mass housing. You turn it to land. You saw yourself to land sellers. You started selling land. You are not building again. So those are the issues that we must tackle. Investment in funding for Africa, I can tell you that I can assure you that we can access almost $4 million to the rest of this year. But who are we giving it to? We can mention all these economic indices, risk assessments and all this. And at the end of the day, if we don't have a credible mind to deliver the goods, we are going to go back to the same story next year. And also, my dear brother mentioned about, people leaving the country, COVID-19 is a general issue. It's not particular to Nigeria. COVID struck everywhere around the world. I could not leave this country to see my family for almost a year. We need to re-strategize. We need to ensure that we do the right thing as a practitioner. If we get the fund, we utilize it to do the common goods for our people. And lastly, not the least, we discuss about, I will encourage us also to look into what Federal Ministry of Housing is doing, Federal Mortgage Bank is doing. They are doing a lot with practitioners, which, credible organizations like SCCI and the rest of it, where you can access single-digit fund, you can do your business, build and establish a very fantastic credibility. But if after digging in, they find out that you are not credible to have these funds, we will continue to lament. And until we regulate the industry, we ensure that it's not tag of MD of so. What are your background? If you have funds at 20, 30%, what have you even do with it? What are the records that you have in play? If I'm giving you 500 million to develop social housing scheme, you defaulted. If I'm giving you 1 billion, of course, you are, at a single digit, you are going to default. So it's all about credibility. We need to look inward. We need to re-strategize. Leaders in the industry needs to be selective. The selection model needs to be, vibrant. I was in town when Mr. Chairman was with the Vice President, and I and my friend, Muri Okunla, we were discussing, and we were just laughing. If we initiate a special funding with the CBN, that, okay, we are targeting in the next 7-8 years, we are targeting, 20,000 or 50,000 housing. The problem lies that somebody will get these funds, is using a Land Cruiser, is going to go and buy a Escalade in the next morning. So these are the things that we have seen. And I can tell you, government of Lagos State and Ogun State, and even Mr. Oti, His Excellency Mr. Oti, is of course, in support of all this. The transaction you are talking about is intended to build 10,000 houses in the next 1 year. But the federal government of Nigeria is reluctant to commit itself based on the preceding issues and strategically defaulting in investment in housing. So I will encourage us in the industry to look inward, to do home tidy, then we can now go out and say, okay, this is what we can do. Ghana is doing better because they have credible allies, credible practitioners who stand by their word, who gets these funds and develop common housing for the benefit of their countrymen and women. So I'd like to stop at that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oshinowo. One thing that kept striking me, also because at one point in time, years back in my life, I was president of a professional association. It then bothers me if the issue of integrity featured seriously all through. I begin to wonder, was it because it was the wrong people who presented face, or is it that the industry is seriously lacking in persons of integrity? I see that there are two people here that should actually just quickly, just a minute each from Kaizabo and then Madam Fashalo, just to speak to this issue of ethics and professional practice and integrity as it relates to project delivery and in Nigeria as a whole. The two of you, just a minute each.
Yes, very quickly, I'm going to say that in most times, people who have questionable characters are able to pursue at all costs and beat every protocol and hurdle. We are all Nigerians, and so everybody understands exactly what I'm saying. And so they have the privilege of being at the foremost to present themselves. And as such, I think if you still look at the construction sector, there are quite a lot of very credible people. Because I've been in mortgage, I've also been very closely working with developers and construction companies. There's still a lot of, so I would say that I'd encourage those of us that are practitioners and are still very credible not to give up. I have the mic, so the barriers that we have had when it comes to those kind of things, and while trying to mince what I'm not just saying it very bluntly, when I have encountered those kind of situations, what will need to present to even be, to open the door means that you collect the money and you won't do anything. And at least I've had about 5 situations that I have walked away from it because I don't intend to run away from Nigeria and I don't have money, but the name is the only thing I have. So I would rather walk away than deal. That, I think, is the situation.
Thank you. Yes, Kaizabo.
Thank you so much, sir. It's really a shame, the level of corruption in our industry. It's such a shame. I dare say that. People imagine that it's just in the public sector that we have this corruption. That's not correct. It's even worse in the private sector, unfortunately. I speak publicly about this, something I talk about all the time. And I try to, in my organization, I try to lead by example. Because if I'm going around giving bribes to consultants and clients, reps, there's no way people in my office will not know. The accountant will know, he will tell somebody, whisper to the next person. At the end of the day, What will they do? They will steal in my own company. They will collect bribe. So let's not deceive ourselves. Unfortunately, the industry is terribly corrupt because of the large sums of money. They are big ticket items. And in Nigeria, we want to live big life. We talked about it now. That you give a contractor money, the first thing he goes to go and buy a car. I've run my business for 31 years. I've been on a salary for 31 years. If my company doesn't make a profit, I don't touch my company money. It's my company. Nobody can do anything to me. That's part of the integrity. But people are dipping their hand into company coffers. They are spending company money, buying cars, traveling, building houses, marrying wives, throwing parties. Then really, how can the business survive? When you have taken the profit up front, what now happens to the job you are supposed to do? Of course, they will build substandard houses. And then where's the credibility? It's such a shame, I'm sorry to say, that we're in a very corrupt industry and we are teaching our children to do the same because the children are watching us. When people are bringing Ghana Must Go to us in the house, they are looking. There's a story of a young boy in primary school who was bringing money to school every day. Every day we declare for his friends. So the teachers had to call the parents, say, this young boy, every day, he brings money to school, he will buy drink, buy meat pie for his friends. Where has he gotten money from? Apparently, when they bring Ghana Must Go to the father in the house, every day the boy is going to school, he will go and dip hand there. So we have developed a bad culture in our country. It's so unfortunate. And from what I've learned, it starts from the home. I was privileged to be given an award in May amongst 48 other Nigerians who displayed integrity in their work. This was done by the Luxterra Foundation and MacArthur Foundation. They operate in over 100 countries. It was funded by them. We found out that everybody had a story to tell. Oh, my father taught me this. Oh, my mother taught me this. When I was in secondary school, my principal taught me this. That is where we have to start from. We have to start from the bottom and clear this mess that we've put our country in. Thank you.
Thank you. It appears, okay, because since you threw the challenge and you want to say something, but it appears even Doctor is interested in pursuing this topic. So I'll give you a minute, and then Doctor maybe another minute, so that we can then take a look at a very critical subhead on this discussion before maybe our time runs out.
Okay. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to touch on, I'm sorry I'm not speaking in everybody's direction because of the integrity issues that I have witnessed as a private sector player and as a public sector player. Also, I would like to touch base about, construction ban. I would like to call everybody's mind that Nigeria is a developing state. There's a difference between construction bank and infrastructural bank. Two disparities, but the word looks similar. At this stage, what China is, working with right now is not a construction bank. If you look at the law that guides the bank, that gives them money to build and concession, particularly general infrastructure like road, bridges, and the rest of it. If we look into the portfolio, the investments and revenue portfolio of this country, we are not matured enough to embark on certain construction investment, infrastructural investment. Number one, due to bad leadership. Two, the majority of our source of revenue has been downplayed to non-state actors. For instance, oil and gas sector. The general accruing revenue for federal government, if things were to be in shape, in a month should not be nothing less than $500 or $200 billion in terms of the oil well and the natural endowment that God has given this country. But unfortunately, this is where we are. So let's play with what we are at this moment. I could remember also that the Emir of Kano, as a then CBN governor, there is no way we could establish an infrastructural bank or a construction bank, be it at Mias at that time. Now, what we are looking at that time is that what is Federal Mortgage Bank doing? What is Federal Mortgage Bank doing? What is Bank of Industry doing? And also, what is our contribution to African Development Bank? The housing infrastructure is the main pillar of that bank, because it's to serve developing states across Africa. What are we doing? And the reason why Ghana, Benin, Senegal, and the rest of them are having chunk of those funds with African Development Bank is because their leaders are proactive. The private sector, for you to be a player in the private sector, to access those funds, there will be a level of credibility and credence to your profile. You know, in this world, you assess yourself if you are credible. In other clients, you don't assess yourself. For instance, there are agencies. In this country, some people will bribe DSS to clear them for credibility. In other clients, you are not going to do that. It's not you. But in the nutshell, sir, I was following your order, which is a fantastic write-up. But at this point in time, I would suggest that we need to enhance Federal Mortgage Bank, enhance our accessibility to investment fund in housing with African Development Bank, then also, Bank of Industry. So these are the areas that we should look inward and, ensure that we manage what we have as a developing country at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Adenike, you want a minute on that? Otherwise, because I also have another question for you. So once you've done that, then I could ask the other question.
Okay, thank you very much, dear moderator. Now, on the issue of ethics and credibility, incidentally, I'm a council member of the Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria, and that is our core function. Now, it comes back to every practitioner, and that means what you stand for will define what you'll be taken for. So I want to suggest at this point that the construction unit of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce can actually also be a part of this process in liaising with these government agencies for the members who have proven commitment to what the institute stands for, the chamber stands for. And so on that note, they have a list of people they can actually recommend. That is one. Now, you've made reference to Ghana a couple of times. I know one thing the Ghanaian government does, because I've experienced that in many projects. Now, the Ghanaian government will not invite you generally to apply for a project. Rather, they will do their own search and then invite you. They've done it to a couple of my clients. So, and I experienced that before as an advisor to a president in Nigeria. Okay? And then they were to do that same thing, I can say that openly here, to Innosis. They deliberately came to Innosis in 2011. I was then a senior economic advisor to President Jonathan. So I was involved in the team that made Nigeria not to lose Innosis to Ghana. So they will identify a credible partner in a space and then go after that partner and open that partner to opportunities. So that is what they do. So we have then from two perspectives. One is our own responsibility as practitioners. And then two is that government itself will identify those that have credibility and capacity and go after them. So I will leave it there.
Thank you. Just before you drop the mic, just another minute. One of the biggest challenges that this sector faces, and Engineer Kagzobo has made reference to it in his first presentation here today, is the fact that the inputs, the material inputs, and the entire supply network and the supply chain to the sector is largely foreign-based, forex denominated, and there is a very, 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 very poor, almost nil manufactured input into the industry, local. I mean, once you take cement out, there's hardly anything else that is significantly manufactured, local, that goes into any building or infrastructure project. How can that, because that is critical. If you're going to make anything affordable, you must be able to have control and be able to modulate the price at which an input comes into your process. What would you want to share with us based on your experience? Having been inside, outside, and also a teacher. What can be done? How do we evolve a higher input capacity into this sector?
Thank you very much. Now, as we are speaking, the experience that came to my mind happened 30 years ago. I was speaking at a conference in Abeokuta, then called Gateway Hotel. And then this man walked in, because he told us his age then, about 62 years old, an Israeli. Now, he said within the hotel complex, because there was a fault in the electrical system and air conditioning. But where I was speaking was the only cool place in the entire hotel. So he asked for permission to sit in there. Then I now made a point. The old man raised up his hand and said, please, can I say something to confirm what you said here? And the man told me, he told us how he started business, not far from here at Karim Kotu. Okay? But where I'm going to was this. He said he came to Abeokuta at that time to engage with the state government on how we can start promoting marbles that are cut from stones in Abeokuta to replace Italian marbles. This was 30 years ago, 1994. And I've encountered that severally. What is available in Kogi State and different other locations in Nigeria. So where I'm going is this. The materials that are alternatives to those imported are available. But we must be intentional and deliberate in developing them. And that means when it comes to affordable housing and also social housing championed by the government, that will also become a part of the requirements. That's on the one side. Now for FX, there is not much anyone can do about that, because we are dealing with a policy of willing seller, willing buyer. In which case, the rate at which I do business is the rate at which somebody in the built sector will also do business. So the challenge there then is looking more inwards, as I said earlier on. If this all is designed in such a way that there is natural sunlight that comes more into this space, it qualifies them for an energy saving design. That on its own can also attract some, you might call it zero rate funding, but there are many of them. I was shocked a few years ago when somebody approached me and said, there's a $500 million green fund in South Africa. Do you have any project that can qualify for the requirements of this? So these opportunities exist everywhere. But for me, the real, game changer will be sourcing materials locally that will not involve FX.
Thank you. I will come to Engineer Ikaisomon before going to Madam and then ending up with my immediate neighbor here. Very quickly, one of the issues about sustainability, future development, is the issue of efficiency in the construction sector itself. One of the critiques of the construction sector, there's a gentleman called Zach Mortis. He is a journalist, an architectural journalist based in Chicago. And it says about the construction industry that it is a very peculiar industry in that it is the only industry that does not produce the way other industries produce. It lacks the efficiency that other industries that produce have, because the construction industry transports all the materials for the fabrication of its products to its sites, generates a lot of waste in the process of constructing, and then cuts that waste away. That it's an industry that is in very serious need of becoming more efficient and more product-like thinking than the current artisanal approach to product delivery. What kind of suggestions would you make for that can be considered are practicable in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I could not agree with you more. The industry is very inefficient. And part of it, I spoke about earlier. I said, we give clients what they don't need and ask them to pay for it. That is already inefficiency, because you are not creating value for your client. Client doesn't understand. They've come to you as a specialist, and you design all manners of things for them. You tell contractor, go and build, and we are burning the client's money. So I think it's very important that we put heads together, both as contractors and consultants, to design more efficient buildings. That's on one hand. Then coming to work on site, there has to be greater efficiency. And guess what? If you don't know, then you cannot even improve. Do we even track? Whatever you don't measure, you don't track, you cannot improve. What are our processes? Is it lean construction, or are you just doing it the way you were doing it 40 years ago? This is a challenge. When you don't even have talent, how do you even improve? You don't have the right talent. You don't measure. You just work, come to work every day. You don't check anything, you just keep working. Then you cannot get better at what you're doing. Another problem I want to mention here is government policies, unfortunately. In Lagos today, there are different government organizations that just walk into the site and close the site. They come, they close the site. The next one comes, as you are reopening, they close the site. Sometimes for no just reason. Now, where do you want contractor to? You're wasting time, you're wasting money. At the end of the day, who pays for it? It's the client. So sometimes even government brings about inefficiency. I'm not saying that they should not control the quality of work that has been done. Sometimes really, all they just come to do is sign paper. They don't even check anything. There are more efficient ways to ensure there are no building collapses than the way things are being run today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Madam, 1 minute too, because I understand there are a few Q&Q sessions for the A's from here, from the floor. And that my Oga he has sent me a piece of paper that I have already taken more time than I'm supposed to. So just a minute, please.
Yes, just 1 minute. I'm going to say that to become more efficient, there are 3 types of angles I'm looking at it from. One, as a people, we need to change our mindset. A lot of people are still stuck in the olden days of owning a bungalow to themselves, the car park, the driveway, they would not want to share, they don't want to see their neighbors, whereas land is something that is not growing and land is not being produced. So even when it comes to the usage of land, it's high time to become efficient and to know that the population is growing. So we will need to continue to build more high-rise. That's number 1. Number 2, which also has to do with our mindset. As a people, I think when it comes to construction, the universities should do more research and development. I think we use too much cement than we really do. Do we need the quantity of cement that is being used? So those are the kind of things. And thirdly, I think it also still comes to the fact of when it comes to this training and efficiency, Nigeria will say there's no job, there's lack of job, but when it comes to artisans, we still have to go outside to go and bring even the artisans, because they are much more efficient. So those are just the three parts I think this can be dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you. Because that my Ogadia has been looking at my face, okay, Dr. Shinowo, half a minute. So you can start getting ready for questions from the floor.
Okay, I would like to point to manufacturing or dependence of most of the equipment that the practitioners use are imported. There's what we call special zone given to Chinese. You know, I would like to speak more to solution and, you know, forwardness. Nigerians mostly, we don't use or make use of our special zones. The practitioners under SCCI, for instance, can demand and request the state government or federal government for special zones. Special zones where you can bring multinationals who are, or companies who are into tiles, furnishing, and the rest of it that can practice and develop or produce materials that we can use locally. But as a Nigerian, most of us, I'm sure I'm part of it, I prefer to buy a shoe of, you know, St. Denis or Louis Vuitton shoe than asking a friend of mine who is in Ifo to make my shoe. So the harshness and taste needs to be, you know, we need to educate our mind that whatever, we have the materials, the Chinese comes here, you know, for instance in Ogun State, they come here, blast our rock, take most of it, take it to China, and we as a practitioner will travel to China to go and buy the finished product, our home materials. So we can discuss, we can make, you know, investments in special zones, in Ilesha, in Abeokuta, in Kano, where we have solid materials to make marbles, pipes, Abakaleke, where we have timbers, wood. For instance, I have a farm in Ogun State, and when the farm was allocated to me about 15 years ago, I was, you know, I have a lot of timbers, white wood, you know, and this guy, Indians, Chinese approached me that they would like to give me some money and cut my trees. I said, you must be a joke. You must be a joke. I could remember that Chief Onobanjo planted over 7 million at a J4. I'm sure you know J4, sir. Yes. So these are visions that these, you know, elite and patriot built over the years. What is the reason why you are going to China? What is the reason? Most of the material they will use to finish those products are being carted away in your own country. Whereby we can develop a special zone, we invite the Chinese, the best wooden Chinese crafter, to come and produce it in Agilete in Ilefe. People who are doing marble, come and produce the same thing. But because of our urgency, you know, fancy for luxury things that I must buy, I must use one of the best ties from China, from Malaysia, from Taiwan. So we need to look inward and develop a special zones that can, you know, curtail our craveness for external, you know, materials. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you so much.
You have the floor now.
So I'll just take 2 questions because of time, and I know we can engage them thereafter to relate more. So one, and we'll give the president of our leader here, Mr. Longe, to
I want to thank all the panelists for a job well done. But I need to just put forward opinion for the sake of the communique that you want to issue. Everybody has been talking of the inefficiency of the industry, and I couldn't agree more. But we can look for solutions through what happens globally, best practices. You know, England or UK was predominantly inefficient in construction business before, and some Southeast Asian countries. There is a system which we propose, Construction Industry Board, which warehouses everybody, and we must come up with that. All the consultants, all the contractors, all the manufacturers, specialists, under one umbrella. These are private sector run. And then let us come and solve the problem in the industry and infrastructure. First one. Second one has to do with how we set up construction industry bank. I still believe in it. There are people who wants to put money in from outside. If they don't believe in it, it will not be. Shelter Afrique, they said they don't normally put money, they don't buy shares or support shares. But because of the nature of what we want to do, they were going to put $250 million of their money into it. And our private sector, they said it was the private sector wrong. And that, again, is where we should warehouse what we want to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good comments.
Thank you very much. I think I will stand on the protocol that we have. I've enjoyed listening to the contributions of all the panelists. And I think you are all experts and you deserve to be appreciated. Thank you very much. But there's one thing I want to say. By way of introduction, I represent the Nigerian Institution of Estates of Yours and Valuers. This has been issues that we have always been very, very particular about. And when I listened to Dr. Adedipe talking about Vision 2020, I was a member of that Vision 2020. And I actually served in the housing thematic group. I was a coordinator. And I know what we did. The documents are there. Unfortunately, none of it, I would say largely, none of it has been implemented. And I want to say here that the biggest problem we have in this industry, our biggest problem is the finance people, the finance experts. They are the ones that decide policies for this industry without our contribution. That is the biggest problem we have. We addressed that in Vision 2020. Unfortunately, nothing has been done. And I want to say that our major problem also is a structural one. The delivery structure, whether housing finance or housing delivery, we have a major problem in that. The issue of affordable housing and social housing, we have not displayed any proper understanding of it, even up to today, in our policies. Affordable housing is different from social housing. Affordable housing is house income related. What is affordable to people here is different from what is affordable to people here and here. We have not been able to define that structure. So when we talk about affordable housing, we just talk about it generally. If you go in, put what you think is affordable housing there for maybe middle-level people. Before you know it, Lagos State government is doing it. They are doing well. But the people that acquire those properties are not the people that are supposed to be targeted. So, except these finance people involve professionals in policy decision, when you are designing these policies, we will continue to have this problem. Social housing is another thing. Social housing is subsidized housing for the bottom. Those who cannot afford it. And in England, I will give you an example. Every developer in England, the moment you submit your application for development, there is what we call Section 106 agreement. It is there. A percentage of your development is reserved for critical, social workers and so on, nurses, teachers. Whether you are building it in Ikoyi or you are building it in GRA, you must reserve it. And those people will be taken care of. So I think we need to be very, very objective and then be serious about this. It's not about money. And again, I hear about credibility of contractors. If we have proper structure, you see, the way government handles housing delivery or housing project, having money and then throwing it at contractor, that is not the way to do it. It is not done like that in England and in developed countries. You have a system of subsidy and you have non-profit organization, especially when you're talking of affordable housing and then social housing, where you only do what is called tax rebate or tax incentive. They deliver first before they access the subsidy. But when you come forward with money and give them money in advance, And it is because of the corruption, because whoever wants to give out, want to implement that, wants his own cut at the beginning. So I think, we have to be much more serious about what we are talking about. And again, titling is a major problem. I'm sure you are aware that, yes, I think we mentioned contribution of real estate to GDP. We are not doing badly, 1 to 6, but we can do better. And if you know that the debt capital in our industry today, in fact, this industry is the most burdened, in terms of debt capital. PwC estimated it to be around 800 to 900 billion US dollars. And this is property that have no title, that if they have title, they will be taken into the economy and then improve our lives, improve the GDP. But that is there. So I think something serious has to be done about titling too. So please, summary of my contribution is not the question. We have enough, presentation in our document as, to say how we can move forward. But finance people should please allow experts in this industry, those who understand. When you can lead the policy discussion, but involve them because you need them. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I know. He has given me a signal that, like this, that means I should. Thank you very much, everyone. Now, in rounding up, I'm going to give our panelists exactly 1 minute each, and then we go and sit down. Some areas I would have wished that we had elaborated on more were the areas of better collaboration between all the practitioners in the sector, especially cutting across these 3 sectors, which are also multidisciplinaries within the various sectors. Then, very important for a body like this, because you have raised an issue like this, there should evolve from here an advocacy strategy on the key issues, and so many have been mentioned. I'm hoping that the rapporteurs and co will take care of that. Just to mention just a few. And then there is the issues of, touched on by Kaisermo, multiple regulations, compliance issues, and then the fact that the industry is seen as one of those that warehouse ill-gotten wealth, and therefore subject to some other, the prying eyes of Big Brother. These are all challenges. We can't discuss them all, but I would just like to have from each one of you a 1 minute roundup as we conclude this session. So starting from my immediate right, traveling down that way. 1 minute each, please.
Okay, thank you everyone for listening. In summary of our discussion, of my own perspective, we need in-depth collaboration with a major stakeholder in private sector investment portfolio. We need to work with governments on regulations. Yes, there is, country regulations of, governments, of testing and the rest of it. However, regulation is a standard protocol across the world. You must be regulated by government. And I want us to bear in mind that we are still a developing nation. Contribution to nationhood is critical if you want a better, construction and industrial housing sector. Also, like what my dear Igmondes said, we need a private sector collaboration to work with the chamber. This is a sector that is dominating virtually, even US economy, British economy, most economy in the world. We have huge portfolio to manage and deliver. So what we need is to continue to engage ourselves, look inward, solve so many issues. A lot of people will tell you that when you're a big boy in this country, the safest place you can keep your money is in construction. I hear a lot, but we don't have much time to discuss that. It's very, very deep. And the perception of government about anybody in housing or real estate is that, well, you still want money somewhere, you are dipping it in there, and the rest of it. On regulation, particularly Lagos State government, when you get funding to build, a certain, dictates of a particular structure. Because you have used the money for another adventure, you will have to build a substandard structure just to meet your obligation. Those are the critical issues that is embedded in why people and government believe that if you are in construction or real estate, you are not really that credible. You just come up with a good design, 4G, and the rest of it. At the end of the day, you still want to do what you want to do. So I'll call for major collaboration among sector in finance, in real estate, architect, and major stakeholders to come together, and form a very formidable collaboration for a better Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I've spoken about the role of regulatory agencies. And like I said, there should be a one-stop shop. There should be one office you go to in Lagos. I want to build a warehouse. I want to build a luxury flat. I want to build a hospital. One office where you go to, or if you tell you this one is safety, okay, I deal with safety. Environment, I do. Planning. You go around the table, you get everything you want to get. Nobody will come and disturb you when you get to site. So that's one. Collaboration across borders. Today, technology has allowed us to be able to work across borders. Earlier, I talked about a lot of foreign companies leaving the country, and with them goes a lot of technological expertise. Let's face it, as Nigerians, we are not quite there yet. Let's agree on that. So we still need this collaboration across borders, and technology has allowed us to do that. So I think we should take advantage of technology and collaborate both in country and outside the country. Let's not limit ourselves to only what we know. Spread out. Get collaborate. They would like to do business here without being here. So let's continue to work with the foreigners who have left, and they can make small money, and then we can improve our capacity. Thank you.
I'm just going to suggest that we as a people, the National Assembly, we should give them more jobs. They have their different units for every sector. I think it's high time we find out which of them is actually responsible for whatever our sector is concerned. So let's push what we want them, bills that we want them to pass. And I also think as individuals, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we have a research unit. I think for every sector, it's a pity he has left. He said he was the president of an association. I think all these relevant associations need to pay a lot of attention to research and development. What that will do, it will help us look inwards. It will help us create the change that we need. And lastly, I'm going to say that as Nigerians, we forget that we are actually the off-takers for everything that is being built, either as a company or as an individual. You can't see any country, if you work in America or these developed economies, you would have taken a mortgage. I'm sure those of us that have taken mortgages here in Nigeria cannot be up to 10. Unless you do that, you are shooting yourself by the foot. And that's why I suggest that we open our mind to new information and opportunities that are available. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My intervention and closing remark here will be with respect to the intersection between finance and affordable housing. And that is where I see a gap, which is the enablers, as I call them, 3 elements here: guarantees, insurance, and incentives. If those 3 are not robust, we cannot achieve affordable housing. I will leave it there. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. On that note, of that powerful note, we want to thank our discussant for beautiful job, well moderated by my brother and my bon, Architect Ladega. Thank you so much. Let's put down together for them, please. But just before they step out, I'd like the president to please step forward for a photo ops. Yeah, let's be upstanding, sirs. So the president will join us. You can stay like 1 or 2 steps forward. Yes. I'll take 2 different pictures. So I'll call the keynote speakers and the DG thereafter. In the middle, sir. Yes, sir. Can we? Are you good, Francis? Or they should move a bit? You're okay like this, okay. We'd like the keynote speaker, Mr. Joseph Olusegun Ajanle Koko, to please join us in this photo ops, as well as the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Chinyere Peace Almona, FCA. No, you stay here, sir. No, let her be here. You are good, sir. Yeah, but it's good. This is perfect. Okay, sorry. For the last set, I'd like to have the chairman of the three sectors that organized this today: construction and engineering group, real estate, and the financial services group. Please, sorry, pardon my error. The construction chair, real estate chair, and the financial services group. Please, let's join the president on this. Can you pick it well now, Francis? Are you okay? All right. Thank you so much. Can I have Ayodele Akanmu here, please? Or someone from the secretariat, please. Taiwo, please come, please. I need you to help me with the names here. Ayo, please don't leave this all until we are done. Please, I beg you. Thank you. Don't leave this place until we are done. The first name. Give me the first. Thank you. Yes. Our brother, moderator, architect Olusegun Ladega, please come forward for this to be presented to you by the president. Let's put hands together for him, please, our moderator. Thank you so much. Next is our brother, Dr. Oshinowo Ibrahim. Let's put hands together for Dr. Oshinowo, please. Okay. Mrs. Olajumoke Fashanu, SCA. Please step forward, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Abiodun Adedikwe, please come forward for this, sir. Doctor. Next is a brother, Engineer Iguan Okasabo. Let's put hands together for him, please. That is the man that is taking over the construction of everything in Edo State going forward. Thank you, sir. Next is our brother and the keynote speaker here today, Mr. Joseph Olusegun Ajanle Koko. Let's put down together for him. Can I please ask for the last time with all the panelists with your presentation to please come with the president for the last photo ops. Sorry, Mr. Ladega, I'm the one I have. You know the mic is with me. Let's come for the last. Just holding your yes. Thank you. Doc, just hold your plaques, please. Let's just. Something like that. Well, it's not bad. Anyhow. Okay, let's balance it up. To this side, yes. Let's just take like a step. Are you good, Francis? Okay. Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together for them, please. They have done so well for us today. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for this. Just before we move to what is next, and we'll be calling it a day, I'd like to recognize the presence of, they all came in while the panel session was on. Dr. Ifeanyi Okeke, DG SON, ably represented here today by Folashade Aderoju. Aderoju is the special advisor to the DG Lagos and Southwest Operation. Let's put hands together for for Folashade, please. All right. I'm also told that we have with us, yes, he came out, our brother, Mr. Osita Ede. He is the chair of the Financial Services Group. Let's recognize him, please. Let's put hands together for him. We have, all right, the chairperson of the Women's Group, Mrs. Oluwafumilayo Oduwaye. Let's put hands together for the chair of Women's Group. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for showing up. All right. Just about the last thing before we step out, I'd like to ask that the director of membership here at SCCI comes around to give us what you should know about SCCI in about 2 minutes. Let's put our hands together as we have Abosede Okeyemi, director of membership, SCCI, to give us what you need to know about SCCI. Let's put our hands together for her, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, council members. I would like to stand on existing protocol, and I would have to just give a brief information about the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much. Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry was founded in 1888 as a non-profit organization that protects the interests of the business community. The Chamber's vision is to be a leading chamber in Africa, providing world-class services and supporting the development of a vibrant private sector. Our mission is to develop and grow and engage membership and protect the interests of the organized private sector through good governance, advocacy, and enabling business opportunity and providing business support services. What do? We represent, the Chamber is a representative organ of the business community as a leading voice of the organized private sector in Nigeria. It maintains regular consultations on policies and measures affecting the business community. The Chamber makes representation to the federal government on issues of interest to the business community, states, and the economy. Some of the services that the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry affords, one of it is the membership, the Business Education and Service and Training Department, international relations, trade promotions, and others. The benefits of joining the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry includes value-adding networking with businesses within and across the 26 sectoral groups of the Chamber. Letters of introduction can be issued to members for businesses and trade purposes. The Chamber also facilitates networking with institutions abroad and confirm references to local members. The Chamber's publications are among the leading works of references used by overseas businesses in connection with trade and investment opportunities in Nigeria, and members are often featured in them. Other benefits we have are networking, advocacy. We have so many other benefits. I have some of my colleagues at the extreme end. Please, if you're interested in joining LCCI, please kindly meet them at the extreme end towards the registration stand. The Lagos International Trade Fair is the largest international exhibition in West Africa. The trade fair is a premier international trade fair in Nigeria, which starts on the first Friday, November 1st to 10th. We are the point of the Lagos International Trade Fair. This trade fair offers a unique exposure for manufacturers, suppliers, buyers, and users of a wide range of goods and services, as well as opportunities for investment and trade purposes. The Business Education and Training Services offers a broad spectrum of business development services to members, some of which are the mentoring program, dual vocational programs, SME capacity development, partnership, and collaboration. The International Relations offers government relations, diplomatic relations, trade delegations, and so much more. We would like to invite all the non-members to kindly please join the LCCI. This is a platform and a place where you should be. You can actually notice that we just completed a particular event. These are just one of the sectoral groups that the LCCI has. We have numerous sectors. Please utilize this opportunity. Let us come together. Let us work together. Let us see how to build this economy. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Once again, let's put our hands together for the beautiful membership director, Abosede Teniola Okeyemi. Let's put our hands together for her, please. Please, let's clap for her, please. Thank you so much for that. We'd like to move very fast. I know the refreshment is being served, but just before we begin to open our mouth and take and do what is needful, I'd like to have our brother, the chair of the Financial Services Group, to come in for a closing remark and vote of thanks. Put your hands together for Mr. Osita Ede. We are not clapping again.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to adopt the existing protocol. Mine is to say a very big thank you. If you notice what has happened here today, a lot of, in fact, when my brother here was talking about finance people, I said, I'm in trouble because I work in a bank. So, but I'm sure I'm not the one he was referring to. It's a bigger finance people. So, but I think the quality of the conversations that we've had today is something that is quite very impressive. And I want to thank everyone here for making it possible. Most especially, I thank our president and chairman of council, Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, FCA. The very first time I met with you, he was the one that kept saying, collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. That was what I took out from that meeting, that all the trade groups should start collaborating and working together, and that's what betters what we are having today. Again, I would like to appreciate the President General of LCCI, Dr. Mrs. Chinyere Almona. Thank you. Our panelists, thank you very much for that brilliant conversation. It's a whole lot. In fact, someone sitting on my table was saying, we cannot stop. There are so many issues. Let's lock the door and discuss all of them. You know, but if you listen keenly, you agree with me that the conversations are actually very strong and deep conversations that cannot be exhausted today. But the good thing is that we've started that journey. And then there will be follow-up conversations. We've also noted a whole lot of points for the trade groups and also for advocacy groups, as a offshoot of some of the conversation we had today. So thank you very much, our distinguished panelists. We appreciate you a lot. And to all the distinguished representatives from Lagos State Government and all the other parastatals, thank you very much for honoring this invitation. I wish all of us a beautiful rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Osita, for that vote of thanks. As usual, here in SCCI, we'll begin our event with the national anthem. We also do a close with the national anthem. Can I please urge, just before we start networking and talking and meeting our friends, let's be upstanding as we have our national anthem to close for the day. Thank you so much. Do have a blessed day.